I don't enjoy doing interviews, and people go, well, why do you do it? One big reason why I can't stand it, public speaking, being on camera. I used to stutter real bad growing up. So you're always having to face these fucking demons that come out of everywhere. You know, people think, you know, because I'm decently successful now, successful not monetarily, but just I've overcome a lot and I have a nice looking resume. But I'm still every day, you know, just battling. So this is why I do it. I do it from my own personal, you know, fears and younger thing about, fuck, man, I'd be out here stuttering and shit. I do them alone. You know, like I pick these hard things that most people think you can't finish anyway. So, you know, you go out there, you grind, you're alone, you're in your own head. I work best alone. So those are easier. You know, I figured out a way to kind of challenge your mind, channel it and challenge it at the same time. And I figured out a way to kind of just have an indestructible toolbox in your mind. So those are easier. I have a gift. It's not a gift of gab. It's just a gift of saying, look, man, I'm vulnerable. I'm very, very human. I'm not God's gift. I'm not Superman. I'm not Batman. I'm not even Robin. But I did figure out some things along my journey. So if I kept myself introverted and closed in, no one would ever, you know, realize, man, that big, hard, tough guy over there, man, you know, he's just some superhuman, and they put a title on me. This way, I have to break myself down, let people know that anyone can be who they want to be. That foundation of life that I didn't have, that's how it started off for me, and it's progressively got worse. So when you have a horrible foundation, it's like building a house on a fucked up foundation. This is what you're going to get. You know, any kind of earthquake or something happen, the house is going to go down. Sometimes, you know, it doesn't even take an earthquake. It takes a little windstorm. So that was me. I was just a little windstorm away from breaking all the time, a windstorm away from breaking, but no one knew it. I walked around like I was a pillar of strength at a young age. But that internal conversation you're having back here is this weak little kid, very afraid. And I think that's what makes the book very powerful, because I take you there. I take you to that spot of, you know, I'm superhuman now, so you think. But a lot of people have a lot of problems that they can't overcome. When I talk to people, like, I see where I'm at today, but I know where I come from. And it's kind of hard to almost separate that. I'm almost, not in a way I'm kissing my own ass, but I'm amazed at what a human being can actually do. So when I start talking to myself in the third person, it's strictly because I know that I literally made this human being out of just like a whole bunch of scraps. And I wasn't, you know, I wasn't a mechanic. I wasn't a carpenter. So I didn't know how to do any of this shit. Mm-hmm. You know, I wasn't trained in how to build a human being from nothing. You know, like my mom didn't train me. My dad didn't train me. Life didn't train me. Well, life did train me. And I started putting this scrap metal together. I'm like, I wonder what the fuck's gonna happen. You know, the first year I tried to do is all fucked up. And after a while, I started learning more and more and more through pain and suffering. I started learning so much about stuff. Before I knew it, man, I built this beautiful car. And I'm like, how the fuck did I do that? And I knew how, and I know how to do it because I have all the tools. Through all the failure I went through trying to build this person who's Goggins. And you said it perfectly there. The one thing that made me who I am today is being vulnerable. It's breaking myself down to the absolute rock bottom and being able to tell people who I am. And that's how I fixed it. Literally, being able to look somebody in the eye and say, you know what, man, I have a whole bunch of character problems, character flaws. I've lied about this. I've cheated here. I'm insecure here. This isn't the real me. I lied to you about that. I wanted your acceptance in life. All those things happen. But the thing about it is that we get judged so quickly by who we are. We don't know. We don't go to where it happened. You know, life created this person, me. Life created me to be this fucked up person that I was back in the day. And I had to realize, man, that's okay, man. It's not my fault. Now I gotta go back and fix this shit though. So a lot of this isn't your fault, why you do some things you do, why you feel the way you feel. But no one's coming back to save your ass. You have to go back to where the shit started, wherever that place is for everybody. and have the courage to go back there and start fixing what broke you. And that's my, I was like, hey, I'm fucked up. I'm gonna go back and fix this. Got to be able to get out and let your mind see open-mindedness. Because a small town, what it does to you is it closes your mind. Completely closes your mind. Not everybody. This isn't everybody. A lot of people. You have to be able to go out there and create open-mindedness. You need space. You need space to see the world. A lot of ignorance in the world, it comes from people not being out and seeing other things, seeing other people, seeing all kind of shit. That's why we judge so harshly, because our minds are so closed to the reality of life.
And the problem with the collectivist perspective, especially the one that portrays you as a victim, is that it's always up to someone else to solve your problems. It's not like you don't have the problems. You know, the idea that in some sense you're an eternal victim. Well, there's a truth in that, given that nature is conspiring to destroy you and will be successful in the end, that you're undermined by your own society at the same time you're buttressed by it, and that you're a target of your own malevolence and that of others. I mean, so there's a triad of tragic and malevolent forces that are aimed directly at your heart, and that's always the case. But to not take responsibility for that and to attribute to that to a cosmic injustice or a sociological injustice in some sense that's aimed particularly at you, that's somehow the fault of others, is to miss the great adventure of your life. You know, one of the things I learned last year, I was doing a series of biblical lectures, and I started to analyze the Abrahamic stories, which I didn't know very well. And the story of Abraham is particularly interesting because Abraham he's a slow starter. He's one of those guys that failed to launch, right? He's in his father's tent, hanging around his mother's skirts till he's 80. And 80, that's exactly it. And God finally gets fed up with him and says, look, why don't you get the hell out of the tent and get out there in the world and have an adventure? You know, your life is waiting for you. And well, it's God calling, so Abraham has enough sense to pack up and leave, but it's complete bloody catastrophe from there on in, you know. I mean, the first thing he encounters is a famine, and that's no joke, and then it's a tyranny, that's the next thing, and then it's a conspiracy to steal his wife. And I'm sure that he spent the next 20 years wondering why in the world he ever listened to God and just didn't stay in his damn tent. You know, but there's, and the Abrahamic story and the stories that follow that they all have that same narrative structure, is that there's this call to adventure, but it's not to happiness by any stretch of the imagination. It's to a heroic mode of being that involves taking responsibility for the full catastrophe. And that in that adoption of that adventurous mode of being, there's a deep meaning to be found. Right? A meaning maybe that transcends just you, that involves your family and that involves your community and maybe even the destiny of humanity itself. But there's nothing about that that's secure or easy, and very little that has to do with happiness. The idea that your problems should be solved for you, let's say, and that it's unfair that you have them, well, it's attractive in that there's nothing for you to do except complain. But it's horrifying in that there's nothing for you to do except complain. The difficulty is actually, the funny thing is the difficulty is actually the destiny. And it is insanely difficult. But maybe you're insanely up to the task. You know, and I would also say, there is evidence for this, you know, in the clinical literature. We know that one of the main strategies that you can use to help people cure themselves is for them to grapple with what they're terrified by. Grapple with what they're terrified so badly that they're avoiding. And to learn to confront it in pieces, in stages, in manageable stages. Not too much, you know, because you can hurt yourself, but not too little, because then it's pointless. And it works. It makes people not less vulnerable, but more courageous and stronger, which is better than being less vulnerable, because good luck with that. That's not happening. But you can be more courageous and you can be stronger. And if you take on the burden of confronting the catastrophe of your existence, then that happens. And it actually works. And that's part of what everyone is called upon to discover in their life, and partly what religious stories try to remind people of, in some sense, to wake them up, say, you're more than you think you are.